I'm drawn by feelings primarily. I say that leads me, feelings, and instinct, intuition, and discovery of the new. One of the key things is to represent that feeling. I've taught widely across London. My main first job was at Chelsea, and then I got the job at the Slade as head of undergraduate painting, and that was absolutely wonderful. I still teach 1 day a week at the Slade. I studied at the Slade too. The dominant culture was that of either life painting or conceptualism or minimalism. But I'd always been interested in expressionism. I love the idea painting has feeling. That's, to me, crucial. So I started making rally expressionist paintings, but it felt a bit out of odds, though I had wonderful tutors. I made lots of sculpture at the Slade. You know, everything was very minimal or conceptual. I made about 8 of them, but that's the only surviving one because the others were too big. In 1980, I went to the Venice Biennale, and oh my God, the whole place was full of expressionist painting. There was sort of Baselitz, Kiefer, Wagner playing in the German pavilion, all this wonderful painting that fascinated me. And I felt, wow, painting is back, fantastic. This was 1991. I got something called a Wingate scholarship, and they paid for me to go for 3 months to travel to Thailand, Burma, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And it really affected my work. I remember the first time I saw Wat Po and this gigantic golden Buddha. I thought, why have I never been taught about this at art school in art history? I suddenly realized how incredibly narrow our understanding of art was. It didn't include Asia. After I saw all these amazing Buddhas and all this amazing art that I'd not been taught about, I just was committed to the transcultural, and I arranged residencies in Thailand and in other countries as well, and I got artists into the Slade from many, many places. I mean, one of the reasons I love traveling, I think being out of your comfort zone, being put into somewhere very different, really affects my creativity. Both my paintings and my sculpture contain things that you can discover, and I see those as thoughts and memories and symbols. Oh, there's an earring. Oh, there's a shoe. Oh, that looks like a building. So I'm interested in all this kind of flow of different symbols and language, flow of thoughts. One of the things I've always found very interesting, quite often when you go to universities, people say, Professor Stahl, what's your concept? And I goes, my concept is no concept. It's a journey into the unknown. It's like into outer space. I actually wanted to be an astronaut when I was sort of 14. The idea of just not knowing what you're going to find. I believe there are 2 types of research. There's evidence-based research and speculative research. And speculative is when you've no idea what the outcome will be. I'd say my work is speculative. There was a 24-hour cafe on Soy 11 in Sukhumvit area, and I would go in there with an artist friend, and we would draw for an hour. And I would make a drawing every day, practically, and I just use black ink on paper. This is a cat that was in the studio where I was doing my artist residency, and it jumped out and went, I picked up one of its little kittens, and it went, wah, like that at me, but then became very friendly. Anyway, when I went back there a few weeks ago, all the little kittens had had babies themselves, so there were now hundreds of kittens. That's Brian Curtin, the critic. He recognized himself, which I was rather amazed by. And so that was the kind of drawing process, the kind of more discovery process. But for my paintings, it's quite similar. I just go in there, I've got the big canvas, and I just think, this is going to be a seascape, landscape, it's going to be a big head, it's going to be an an arm, a leg. It's going to be a part of a body. For me, heads are more like a way of entering the painting. These are not finished, you see. They're just sort of on process. This scale, I quite like this scale. Sort of jumping around. And it's flying through, again, the dots we're talking about. This flat, sparkling city, contemplating the snake, the countryside. I actually want to make a whole group of smaller work, just to change. I think change is important, to challenge yourself. You get some idea. Some I made before, a year ago. So, looking rather grumpy there. Dancing figure. That one too. Anyway, there's some more. There are lots more. I went to a wonderful talk by Christopher Lebrun. He said, I walk into the studio, I don't look at the painting immediately, and then I look at it properly, and it either speaks to me or it says nothing. It's finished. I think it's quite important to leave something on the edge where you're not sure, or just you've been working on it so long you need to let go. And sometimes I've ruined paintings by overworking them. This one is not finished, the rather scary head with the blue running down. I'm going to work a bit more on that. I think probably everything else is finished. Journey to the East, Hermann Hesse. Nausea, Sartre. Say Conrad, Heart of Darkness. C.S. Lewis, Voyage to Venus. The Outsider, Colin Wilson. Allen Ginsberg, Cosmopolitan Greetings, one of my favourite poets. I'll find the right page there. Cosmopolitan Greetings. Stay irresponsible. Change is absolute. Ordinary mind includes eternal perceptions. Observe what's vivid. I love that, the idea of vividness. Mind is outer space. Inside the skull is as vast as outside the skull. Things like that. I love that. Advise only yourself. Anyway, it's very nice, actually. It's lovely. I've got a cupboard full of gifts that people have given me, or things I've found, or things I value. I don't really use them for art, but for example, I went to one of Warhol's last shows, Anthony Dauffe, the silver portraits, and he was there, and I smoked cigarettes in those days. I got him to sign my cigarette packet. And lots of my students give me things. They're so kind and wonderful, and I treasure them. I think it is with most artists. You're very affected by what's happening in your life. I'm very lucky. I've got 4 children, but I brought up 5. So we're always incredibly busy. They're always around, buzzing around. They're in my work as symbols. That one over there is called Piggy. I asked permission from my kids because I have boxes of their teddies and toys and dolls and things. So I said, can I use those? Because I thought it would be interesting. And they all said, go ahead. Anyway, I showed that piece in Somerset House in a group show I curated with someone else. One of my daughters, called Juno, came to thing and she said, oh no, there's Piggy. I mean, she's grown up, 27 or something. This one, by the way, is for my mum. My mum passed away in 2015, and it's got her things that were going to be thrown away, that no one would want to use. A card I put to her, to a wonderful mum. Her clock, her fan. And she was a musician. She was so amazing. I was thinking of that wonderful Gauguin phrase, what are we, who are we, and where are we going, or something like that. I often feel like that.